sad the elves can't work things out. Alfheim's such a beautiful place, but war makes it ugly. The blue door! That's gotta be the entrance. Let's go!
Hello guys, what's going on, and welcome to my first ever video for Unit Talks Games. And here today, I'm going to be talking about a legendary game that I feel like hasn't been talked about in a while now. And it's one of my favorite games on my top 10 favorite games list, which I have done, which I only did 8 because I wasn't able to do the other games because they were on different consoles. But I want to be talking about God of War today in as much detail as I can possibly give, and I plan on doing this for all of the games that I had on my list. So, without further ado, let's get started with how awesome God of War is.
We must focus.
Father, the pillars and ring form an elvish rune.
So, without a doubt, probably my first thought that has come to mind with looking at this game is how gorgeous it looks. The way the game was created was a lot of time and effort was put into the graphics, the story, and pretty much every way, shape, and form that it looks. And I've got to say, it's probably one of the most beautiful forms of writing I've ever seen in my life. And the way that you can take something from another story and just create something new and fresh just right off the bat with the same person that you have. For instance, you look at God of War 1, 2, 3, Ghost of Sparta, Chains of Olympus. You look at all of those things, all of those games, and you see one story with one character, and then all of a sudden you have a brand new revival game with a brand new story, and it revolves around the same guy that's been God of War the whole time, and then all of a sudden his son. That's honestly, in my opinion, what makes a lot of the games great is when they combine new stories with same characters, such as Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which released in 2019. So I know I'm talking about the game itself, and I said I'd be talking about how beautiful the game is, but in my honest opinion, what makes the game beautiful is the graphics. It looks great. That's the obvious part. B, the story and the writing is also what makes it beautiful, and C, the emotional appeal that the characters are made out to be is what truly makes this game beautiful to me. So let me lay out some valid points. If you have ever played this game, which I'm pretty sure most PS4 players has at this point in time, Kratos is, in the beginning of the game, Kratos is not really close with Atreus at all. In the beginning, he's mostly, he calls him boy, which is, that's apparent in the game. He calls him boy all the time. But just the way that he comes through in the end with Atreus and then discovers, there's more to him, instead of, treating him or training him. It's a process because of how Kratos has grown, as a person and as a god. He destroyed all the gods in the Greek mythology world, and all of a sudden here he is in the Norse world, and he's literally going to destroy all the gods in the Norse world. That's honestly what I feel like is going to happen, except for Atreus, because Atreus is obviously a god that we find out in the end. Spoiler alert if you haven't played the game, but if you haven't played the game at this point, what the fuck are you doing? But anyways, so pretty much, Kratos knows about Atreus and knows what he is capable of, and he's just trying to teach him how to do things without having to not necessarily turn out like Kratos, but to be the opposite of Kratos. Because I mean, it'd be kind of. Can you imagine Atreus running around here with his bow and arrow killing gods? Like, especially at the moment, and especially in this game, and it was just beautifully crafted throughout the entire game. And you can tell the developers of the game took the time to think about what they were doing and just created something excellent with it, and created to where Kratos was not as close with Atreus in the beginning. Then all of a sudden towards the end of the game, he finally gets close to Atreus and realizes, hey, this is my son, and more they become more of a father-son pair instead of a partner in partner, that they kind of seem like they have in the beginning of the game. But basically that's probably the gist of the Kratos and Atreus relationship. So let's go ahead and talk about, the emotional appeal, obviously. So let's go ahead and talk about Kratos as a character himself. So obviously, for everybody who has played God of War 1, 2, 3, Ghost of Sparta, Chains of Olympus, and for anybody who has played literally any of those games, we will know that in the beginning, Kratos has had kind of bad luck with family. With Ares basically making him kill his family, and the ashes of his family permanently being on his body, and him becoming the ghost of Sparta, basically. He was mostly bent on rage and getting his revenge on the gods, basically. And all three and every single one of the games saw that, except for, I want to say Ghost of Sparta. I don't know. It was the worst God of War game, and I don't remember what it's called at this point. I feel dumb, but basically, I mean, you can tell how much he's grown as a person. I feel like everybody can agree with me on that. Kratos has grown in a way that, he's more pinned out on rage and aggression in the God of War games, and you can kind of tell that the directors of the game even knew this. Like, they even knew this. The creators even know. They were like, okay, he escaped from the Greek mythology, and now he's in Norse mythology with a son. And they probably thought about it, well, we can't make a typical hack and slash God of War game like we did in the last ones. So they decided to go for a more story bent, slower, methodical approach. And not saying that is bad. No. This game is great. And we can kind of see how much, most of us have grown with the God of War character. So we know Kratos. And, we're fine with Kratos. And basically just everybody who's grown up on Kratos is good with him. And it's great. I mean, that's all I got to say. It's great how much they've changed Kratos, and just the story progression of him, the character arc of Kratos has been magnificent. He's more mellow and calm. Like, yeah, he still has rage, of course. He's Kratos, but he's not as bent out on rage and aggression, because the basic story of God of War, is to have his dead wife, spread his dead wife ashes in the tallest point of the Norse mythology world, which we figure out is, he thought, okay, it was the mountain in Midgard. No, it's not the mountain in Midgard. It's where, Freya was born. So it's Faye. I said Freya, I'm sorry. Faye is where Faye was born. And it makes it so much great. And the last thing is just how beautiful the game looks. I mean, as you saw right there, and let me just say this, I have HDR cut on the game itself, and my PlayStation does not record with the HDR on, unfortunately. But the game still looks freaking amazing. I mean, look at it. It looks great. It looks like I haven't made any changes to it at all. The coloring is great, is magnificent, and I don't know, the game was just great. I love the game. I love the way it looks. I love the story mode. I love the emotional appeal with the characters, and pretty much those 3 points, those 3 factors that I made about God of War are reasons itself why people should play it, because just of how great those 3 things are: the story, the graphics, and the emotional appeal, and the way Kratos has grown exactly as a character. And I think anybody who owns a PlayStation absolutely needs to play this game. Guarantee needs to play this game. So those are a few reasons why this game is just pure greatness.
Ready yourself, boy.
Okay?
Not bad, but not good either.
There it is.
Watch our backs, boy.
So as you saw, next conversation on the agenda is the combat. The combat in God of War is a lot more refined than it has been in previous installments. Not that the combat in God of War 1, 2, 3, Chain of Olympus, and Sparta was bad. No. It wasn't bad. And as Kratos said, not good. Not bad, but not good either. I didn't mind the combat in the first God of War games because, it was more of a hack and slash kind of game. And I just see here I'm calling, and another thing, I'm throwing my axe in the air and I'm calling it back to me, is the most satisfying thing you could possibly ever do in the history of your life. Because you kind of feel like Thor, You're like, yeah, by the way, I'm excited for that fight too. I can't wait to fight Thor in the next God of War game. Anyways, back to what I was saying. The combat in the game is, you have so many boss fights as well. And you think that there wouldn't be as many boss fights, because you're not really fighting, a god, basically. And you wouldn't expect them to come out with, so many creatures from Norse mythology, but they have. You're fighting elves, you're fighting, dead things, you're fighting those elemental creatures like I fought, which yet quite easy to destroy. Either that or because I'm on New Game Plus with a souped up Kratos. Either one of those two might be a kind of a decent factor, but we'll just ignore that property. But let's just go ahead and name a couple boss fights, off the top of my head. So you have the first one against the Stranger, which obviously we find out is Baldur. That dude is insane. I'm glad we fight him several times in the game because it makes a pinpoint for Kratos in the beginning. Kratos literally just has a fucking fist fight with the dude, like straight in the beginning. And we get an idea about how, I wouldn't say how old Kratos is, but we get an idea of how not weak Kratos is for his age and how long it's been since, he destroyed Zeus and Poseidon and, all those other gods. And it's just a very, very, very interesting. It's very interesting, and I think that they did very well with a number of these boss fights. It was very smart to do, in my opinion, it was very smart to do a hand-to-hand combat, prologue boss, simply because it sets the tone for basically the whole game. It's like, hey, this isn't going to be your normal hack and slash game. We're going to be more story driven, and the combat is going to be interesting because it kind of reminds me just a little bit of The Last of Us. And, just bear in mind with me here. The Last of Us is probably one of the best games in just forever. It's probably one of the best games of all time. And they had an over the shoulder, I said shoulder, I don't know what that is, but they had an over the shoulder story driven game between two characters in the beginning. They didn't really like each other in the beginning, but then towards the end, Joel finally came around and started to love Ellie in the end, and it was great. It was like a father-daughter relationship, and here we go. We actually have a father-son relationship, and with the combat system, it kind of makes it to where Atreus helps Kratos out, and Kratos doesn't know how much he needs his son until he realizes when he's without his son. And honestly, my favorite part of this entire game is another spoiler alert coming, just a warning. My favorite part probably of this entire game, and I'm pretty sure it might be some favorite parts for you guys as well. It would have to be when Kratos has to go to, I think Jotunheim. I think it's Jotunheim. The really cold place. No, Helheim. I think it's Helheim. Yeah, the really cold place. I'm not good with Norse mythology, so I apologize. But basically, when he has to, right before he has to travel to Helheim, Freya explains that it's really cold, and so he's like, I have to bring up my past, and he doesn't want to bring up his past. He doesn't want Atreus to know about his past. He doesn't want Atreus to know that he's a god, and he's always told Atreus not to trust gods. So it feels like he doesn't want Atreus to know that he's a god because he doesn't want Atreus to turn against him or not trust him, because he tells him, hey, don't trust gods. There are no good gods. And Atreus is a demigod, and he doesn't tell Atreus that, and it makes Atreus sick because he's not doing his full potential, because he has no idea of what his potential is. And after Kratos is aware of it, he finally, he goes and retrieves the Blades of Chaos, and he's alone. And afterwards, he finally realizes how much Atreus means to him, because he needs him more than, he even knew himself. Kratos needs Atreus, and Atreus needs Kratos. And as we saw in the picture frame at the very end of the game, when Kratos pulled back the banner showing that Kratos is dead, and Atreus is giving birth to the world serpent. And it's been said in the game that the world serpent can travel time. So if Atreus gives birth to the world serpent, it's a long lore of history. And if Kratos does somehow destroy every single god in the Norse mythology world, like I think he's going to do. I mean, even, and the reason why I say that is because he's gone up the family tree. He's killed Balder, and he's also killed oh my gosh, I can't think of Thor's sons. He's killed both of Thor's sons, and then in the next game he's probably gonna kill Thor himself. I mean, come on, there's no way that you're gonna think he's not gonna kill Thor. We're gonna kill Thor in the next game, or in the game after that, and then later on, after he kills Thor, he's going to catch the attention of Odin, and Odin is going to be pissed. Come on, you gotta know, Odin is gonna be pissed off. And then when we have to fight Odin is the last one, and then probably, I bet you Freya, we're gonna come against Freya again. After we killed her son when she told us not to, damn well Freya's going to come after us again. And finally, when Kratos is dead, I mean, if Kratos ends up dying later, they might do a game with Atreus. I mean, it'd be kind of cool to see a game with Atreus, right after his father died, and he's all by himself, he's alone, and then he uses everything that his father taught him to overcome everything that he needs to overcome. That honestly sounds like some great writing to me. But I'm getting off topic here. I apologize. But as you see in the background, the combat in the game is smooth. There's absolutely nothing messing up. I don't think I've ever had a single glitch in God of War. And it's been, I've never had a single glitch happen to me in God of War. The combat has been perfect. I've never had anything happen to where, I was stuck or I couldn't hit an enemy or something, because the developers knew what they were making. They took the time to make it, and they made it correctly. And so the game had a flawless release. I've never seen anything about anybody talking about any glitches or anything that God of War has, besides, like, occasionally, there's a enemy that's glitched out or something. I mean, that's quite common. We kind of see enemies glitch out all the time, but mid-combat, Kratos, your own character you're playing as being, glitched himself. I've never really seen anything about Kratos being glitched, so that's that going for them. But basically, they turned as I said, a hack and slash video game into a more refined, story-driven, shoulder-to-shoulder combat experience, and it works well with God of War. And you wouldn't think that it would, because for all the games they've done, hack and slash, here we go again. Here we go, over-the-shoulder combat system, and it works well. It works well with this game. It's an amazing game to do it with. I think it's a great way to do it. And I don't know about you guys, but I personally don't mind some games that do the leveling system. As you can see, my Kratos is level 8, and I'm just tearing apart level 2 guys because I'm level 8. So, but I kind of like the leveling system because it kind of gives you a reason to explore, and it kind of gives you a reason to play the game. Like when you explore areas and you open chests and whatnot, it gives you experience. And I've explored every single area in the game, and I've 100% of the game, and I've platinumed the game. And I've killed, let's just name some of the bosses here, like the Harpies. Oh my Jesus Christ. The queen of all Harpies. Let me tell you, that bitch gave me a harder time than any Dark Souls boss I've ever had. With the exception of Dark Eater Medea, fuck that dragon. But what I'm saying is, the queen of all Valkyries is probably one of the best bosses I've ever fought in my life. When I fought that boss, I legitimately thought I had just completed like an aced a freaking SAT, like just got a perfect score on this. I feel like I really did that. I felt so great after I defeated that damn boss. And like I put my controller down because I had a screaming match with the TV for like hours. It was hours on end, and it was great. I felt fucking magnificent after I defeated that boss. And all the other Harpies, the first one that you fight is actually not that difficult. The first one isn't as difficult. Maybe the first 3 aren't as difficult, but the rest of them, they get a little bit more difficult as you find them. And I gotta tell you, the Queen of the Valkyries, I said Harpies, didn't I? Oh my Jesus, please kill me. The Valkyries, I am so sorry. Gosh, it's like it's the first time I've been up till 2 in the morning in a while. I took a nap at like 6, so I got up at like 9. So here I am, still awake at 2 a.m. But anyways, I'm sorry. I'm a little bit woozy, but I really wanted to record something for you guys. And possibly, if I don't get to upload this to Unitas Games, I'll upload this to my main channel. And literally, main channel. Just because, I mean, I just really wanted to do a video. I really badly wanted to do a video. So here we go. But that's basically everything that I need to talk about God of War and its combat and the way that they turned it from a hack and slash game to a beautiful over-the-shoulder story-driven video game.
Let me just get this down. It's too hard. We should go.
Not yet.
Aw.
So another thing that I'm going to talk about the game and what makes it pretty great is the amount of puzzles that they put in the game. They put a good amount of puzzles in the game to where you'd feel challenged enough and to where you won't feel stupid enough and be stuck on one forever either. As the puzzles you just saw me do, like the last time I played this game honestly was probably back in June of 2019. It's been a whole year since I played this game, and I started playing this game just a little while ago just to record it, and I completely forgot how much I fell in love with this game. It was so great. But the amount of puzzles that they had inside of the game, as I said, it wasn't too many to overwhelm you, and it wasn't too many to make you feel like, you're forced to go through with it. And I'll be honest with you, the older God of War games, I'm sorry, I hit my mic. If it made a noise, I'm sorry. The older God of War games, I would have to say, the puzzles in the older God of War games weren't bad per se, but a lot of them I didn't really like because I felt like I was forced to do the puzzle because I had to get through the game. So I was forced to do them, and I didn't really like doing many of the puzzles, and a lot of the puzzles were the same. And for here, this one, a lot of the puzzles aren't exactly the same. They're not all exactly alike. So you can't really say that God of War has repeated itself, over and over again, when in reality it actually hasn't. It has a decent amount of work put into it. They thought about the puzzles that they could do, and it worked. The little straps, and then you come over here with these little things, and you break them open, and then you cut them open with the axe, and there's several of those, but it makes sense. If you break it, you're clearing a pathway. That's the basis of the game. You're trying to clear a pathway to get through, I think Jotunheim. You're trying to get through here, and you're trying to bring the light back because you need the bridge key in order to get to the place that you need to go. So every single time they put something in the game, there's a reason for it. Like every time they toss something in front of you, there's a reason why they did it. So everything that they do in the game has a reason, and sometimes people get it, sometimes people don't. But in the end, as I said, there's always a reason why, there's here's a puzzle in the game, and all the puzzles mean something, and they're all part of this, a level. So if you're trying to have a decent level, there's a reason why they put the puzzle in there. One, so you can figure it out. Two, get through the game. If three, it might be something good. So try to, every time you see puzzles in the game, try to make sure you complete the puzzle, because you know it might open up something that's really magnificent. So that's pretty much all that I have to say about the puzzles in the game. So that's another thing that makes God of War a great ass game.
Boy! Are you injured?
I'm fine. Wow, it's beautiful. The light. It's making the whole temple reappear. It's the source of all of it. Wait, it's singing. I hear her! I told you I heard her! Do you think she's in there? Ah! Ah! Ugh, that really hurt. I felt like my hand was on fire.
Stay here.
But I want to go.
Stay here. Only use it as a last resort.
You're giving me your axe?
I'm letting you hold my axe. It's not a gift.
Still.
So this scene is worth talking about a great amount in my opinion. And the reason why I chose this level, for instance, to do this video on, or you know why I did it kind of in the beginning, is because I feel like this is about the point of where Kratos figures out how much his son actually loves him and kind of hates him at the same time, you know, and it's kind of like a punch in the gut. And he kind of underestimates his own kid. You know, he doesn't really know. He thinks he's not going to do well, but then, you know, he overcomes stuff. You know, in the beginning of this here, you know, he gives Atreus his axe, or lets him use his axe, sorry. And he tells him it's not a gift, because in, I guess, cultures like this, you know, Faye gave Kratos the axe, the Leviathan axe, and the axe was originally hers before she died, and she gave it to Kratos, which means it's now Kratos because she died. So Kratos was not expecting to die, but he gave the axe to Atreus, so he said, giving me the axe. So if Kratos would have died, then Atreus would have had the axe, but Kratos knew that he wasn't. But even if he did, since he didn't give him the axe, the Leviathan axe wouldn't have been his. But this scene right here, you're supposed to go the opposite direction, but I wanted to take time to focus on that statue of Thor. The scene where Thor is over top of the water and Kratos is looking up at him, if you look in the background, it's cloudy. It's as if Thor is conjuring up himself and creating the darkness that is around the entire, you know, Norse mythology in this universe. It's as if Thor is, you know, the horrible factor inside of the game, and it's as if Kratos is there to, you know, stop it. It's as if Kratos was destined to actually stop Thor himself. And you know, this right here is very powerful, in my opinion, in the game. It's a turning point for Kratos. In my honest opinion, I feel like it's a turning point for Kratos. As I said, it's like a punch in the gut. His son is talking all this mad shit about him, you know, and then he kind of starts to feel bad. And in his mind, he's only been gone for like a few minutes. And then he goes over to the light, and he sees Faye. And Atreus pulls him out, and as Atreus pulls him out, he realizes just how much he has underestimated Atreus himself. He gets up and he looks around, and all the enemies are dead because Atreus has killed them all, and Atreus is still alive without a scratch. And he did it with the Leviathan axe that Kratos let him hold. And that's one point I think right there. Kratos should have realized that his son is worthy enough to, do things. I mean, because look at how many of the bodies he left out with Kratos' axe. It's just magnificent. And I think this part, as I said, is a nice turning point for Kratos in the game. And honestly, I think that last point is just a great way that this game needs to be played by every single human being who owns a PS4. And if somebody doesn't like this game, then they must be playing a completely different game than I've been playing, because God of War is hands down one of the best games of all time. No argue. Don't need an argument there. And without further ado, that's going to do it for me and this video. And if this video does not get uploaded to Unitas Games, it will be on my main channel. And without further ado, I will see you guys in my next video. And I hope you guys enjoyed my talk about God of War. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys later.